Coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studio here in Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is your primetime news bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
I'm Stephanie Lazarus. Before we go into your stories in detail, let's take a look at the headlines.
Chief Prelates call on the President to prevent night races from being held in Kandy. 4 more suspects arrested in connection with the unrest in Alutgama and Beruvela. All schools with the exception of 9 reopened. Indian Foreign Minister holds conclave with envoys to neighbouring nations including Sri Lanka. Suspect shot in police fire in Diulapitiya succumbs to his wounds. And ISIL militants make major gains in Iraq's Anbar province.
On to your top story tonight, the UNHRC mandated international investigation panel on Sri Lanka is due to commence recording evidence in the first week of next month. Commissioner of the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission, Dr. Pratibha Mahanamaheva, says that the recording of evidence will take place in the cities of Oslo, Toronto and London. Mahanamaheva added that while the panel will record testimony from Sri Lankans residing in these countries, they will also use modern technology to record evidence from those in Sri Lanka.
There are a large number of Tamil nationals who migrated to these countries during the war and in the final stages of the war in Sri Lanka. These people too will be involved when the preliminary recording of evidence takes place for this war crimes investigation. They will conclude recording evidence within about 8 months and they will submit their final report to the UN Human Rights Council. Following this, the future course of action will be decided on. They will use modern Skype technology for this investigation and they can identify specific locations in Sri Lanka using GPS. We know that at present, the evidence ordinance in the world is quite developed. Audio, video, disc, tape and computer evidence will stand in court. If by some chance this report does go as far as the International Criminal Court in The Hague, then this evidence could be produced by them at that occasion.
Sri Lankan Deputy Permanent Representative to the UNHRC in Geneva, Manisha Gunasekara, says that the presence of military does not contribute to the insecurity of women and girls in former conflict-affected areas. She made this statement when Sri Lanka exercised a right to reply following a statement made by Canada in which Sri Lanka was accused of, quote, ongoing use of rape and sexual violence by Sri Lankan security forces against perceived government opponents, unquote.
Sri Lanka strongly rejects this claim, which is not substantiated by verifiable data or evidence. Madam Vice President, Sri Lanka has a well-established zero-tolerance policy on sexual and gender-based violence against women and continue to take strong action against reported cases of violence against women. The involvement of security forces personnel as a percentage of the total accused therefore stands at 5.6% in the conflict period and 3.3% in the post-conflict period. Any allegations supported by credible evidence are dealt with firmly by the authorities. Against this background, Sri Lanka strongly rejects the inference that the presence of military contributes to the insecurity of women and girls in the former conflict-affected areas. This remains at the level of allegation, unsubstantiated by verifiable data. Sri Lanka would therefore like to request Canada to refrain from making irresponsible, unsubstantiated claims driven by diaspora imperatives, which is not helpful to the process of bringing about genuine reconciliation among communities in the aftermath of such a grievous and long.
Opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe says that if internal systems in the country were strong, Sri Lanka would have been able to face international pressures. He made this statement in an exclusive interview with Newsfirst Mahina Bongso on the program Face to Face.
As far as the war is concerned, I would have handled it differently. I would have set a different approach to ensure that the Sri Lanka finally emerge victorious out of it, both through maybe through a peace treaty or may have been a military conflict if they are not willing to accept any settlement. I am sure President Kumaratunga had her own ideas. Each of us had different ways. He is the president, so he conducted. But I certainly don't agree with the fact that he went and signed an agreement with the Secretary General of the UN to inquire into all the allegations. Then thereafter went and enshrined it in the UN Human Rights Council resolution and went before the Darusman panel. In my view, firstly, he should not have denied that there were 0 civilian casualties. You can't have a war without civilian casualties, and we did have. There are a lot of innocent people who died because the Prabhakaran used the civilians as a shield. But what we had to do after the war was to see that there was reconciliation, that we looked into the people who suffered, the Tamil people, and where there has been acts, as the LLRC said, that brought disgrace to the armed forces, to have tried them in the normal courts of law, court martials. We didn't have asked for the UN to come in. We had a system that was strong enough. But then what did President Rajapaksa do? He dismantled the system. He took away the 17th Amendment. And not satisfied, they went and impeached the Chief Justice without following the Latimer House principles. So now the world is saying, look, you have no mechanism by which you can try this. And you all have agreed to international inquiry. So those are things I would not have agreed. I wouldn't have done petty politics out of it. He thought, I won the war, I must capitalize on it, make the maximum. And he played politics. And as a result, all of us have suffered.
The opposition leader also remarked on the powers of the UNP Working Committee and the party constitution.
Chess is more or less like politics.
Politics is more than chess. It's teamwork like cricket. It is, you must have the stamina for a marathon. You must also remember it's a hard game like rugby, and it's a blood sport like boxing.
There are allegations that in the Leadership Council, in the Working Committee, there are individuals who have depleted voter bases, and those who do have strong voter bases are not being included in this committee.
Everyone with a strong voter base is there. The whole working committee was done by a constitution which was drafted by Mr. Joseph Michael Pereira, Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and others, and it replaced the constitution which I had drafted earlier. So it's according to that and the criteria given. It's done by the advisory committee which they established. Earlier the leader did that. That's all. So why get into the debate? The votes come for the party, and then only it's decided on individuals. I mean, Colombo, the votes come for the UNP. Then I get the preferences. Now you and I seem to be having a difference on that. That will never be overcome. You think individuals bring in votes? No, because the largest votes the party gets is when you see a presidential election. You know, whether it's the UPFA or the UNP, it's at the presidential election when people vote for a party and the candidate.
But doesn't it build up to a presidential election?
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't the local government election,
no, presidential election comes. The people. It's really. This is the party oriented yet in this country. That there you and I will disagree. I say it's party oriented.
Chess is more or less like politics.
Politics is more than chess. It's teamwork like cricket. It is, you must have the stamina for a marathon. You must also remember it's a hard game like rugby, and it's a blood sport like boxing.
And it is all about protecting the leader.
Face to Face with Ranil Wickramasinghe, hosted by Mahina Bongzo, on the 26th Thursday at 7 p.m.
India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj met Indian envoys to SAARC nations today as part of the new government's initiative to improve bilateral ties with neighbours. Swaraj met the envoys to take stock of current relations with each of the neighbouring countries, to set down the Narendra Modi-led federal government's priorities and approach.
India's High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, Y.K. Sinha, was among the envoys present at the meeting, which also saw the participation of Foreign Secretary Sujata Singh. Indian media reported that the conclave, a grandchild of Foreign Secretary Sujata Singh, also saw the participation of Indian heads of missions from China, Mauritius and Myanmar, besides the SAARC nations, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. The conclave is expected to give shape to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's initiative to reach out to India's neighbours in the South Asian region, first reflected at his swearing-in ceremony held last month, which witnessed the participation of heads of nations of SAARC countries and Mauritius.
India's first concern is security. Next concern is to ensure that our problem is sorted out. They are keen to strengthen ties with Sri Lanka now because of the Indian Ocean, and the main reason, of course, is to get this Tamil problem out of the way. That one, they want the Sri Lanka government to help them also. to get the Tamil problem out of the way. That's one thing. The second thing is there are 447 ships passing India's listing of waters also. The danger to India security if we tie up with somebody. So they want to keep a close relationship with us for their own security.
On to another story that made the headlines tonight. Now, according to the police, 4 individuals have been arrested in connection to the incidents that transpired in Beruwala and Aludgama. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana stated that a total of 62 individuals have been arrested so far in connection to the recent unrest.
A majority of the schools that were closed in the Beruwala and Aludgama areas were reopened today. Only 9 schools remained closed. Chief Minister of the Western Province, Prasanna Ranatunga, notes that 9 schools which currently house security forces personnel and affected persons remain closed. Thereby the Aludgama Mahavidyalaya, Sri Yanisara Mahavidyalaya, T.S. Senanayaka Mahavidyalaya, Kaluwa Modara Primary School and the Beruwala Roman Catholic College will remain closed. The Chief Minister added that the Al-Humaizara Mahavidyalaya, Zaira College Aludgama and Samsuddin Muslim College will also remain closed.
Former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumarthunga has expressed deep concern over the recent unrest that occurred in parts of the country. Issuing a statement, Kumarthunga said that she is saddened by the loss of precious lives, the displacement of families and the destruction of property.
In a statement, the former president notes that it is a matter of great concern that law enforcement has failed to deal with hate-mongering and blatant violation of the law for nearly 18 months. She reminisces that government connivance with communal violence in 1983 led the country to a terribly destructive war for 25 years. She says that while the present government played an essential role in finally bringing an end to the war and terrorism, Sri Lanka has now received an extraordinary opportunity for progress and prosperity by creating a pluralist, inclusive democracy. She calls on leaders, organizations and individuals to call on the government to institute an impartial inquiry into the incidents without delay and to direct the law enforcement authorities to take strict legal action against the instigators and the perpetrators. She adds, quote, we must not allow our motherland to be dragged into another civil war by a small group of extremists, unquote.
UNP parliamentarian Sajith Premadasa says that the government was slow to respond to certain issues. The parliamentarian made this statement at a ceremony held in Hambantota today.
We cannot be content with the policies maintained by the government in the backdrop of a conspiracy to tarnish the image of Buddhism internationally. I saw the police media spokesperson making a responsible statement to the media yesterday. What was the statement about? He said that they will not grant permission for any rallies or marches that could incite racial or religious hatred. And he has said that when statements are made that incite racial or religious hatred, persons can be arrested on the spot. The question I wish to pose is this. They are trying to close the stable door after the horse has bolted. Why did they not take this responsible action several weeks prior to this? If Ranasinghe Premadasa was still alive, he would never allow for ethnic divisions, religious divisions, caste divisions or tribal divisions to arise.
ආගම් ભેදය, වර්ග ભේදය, කුල ભේදය, ගෝත්‍ර ભේදය ක්‍රියාත්මක වන්නට එතුමා කිසිදාක ඉඩ තබන්නේ නැහැ.
This event was held parallel to the 90th birth anniversary of late President Ranasinghe Premadasa at the Velagatwala Purana Viharaya. Material goods were donated to the Viharaya for the construction of a new building.
Central Provincial Councillor Asad Sali charges the police investigates all vehicles and individuals that visit his house.
Azad Saleh charges that 2 police personnel had been stationed in close proximity to his house, adding that his vehicle was also searched.
මේක ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ අතින් දැන් ගත්තේ. ඒගොල්ලන්ට දීලා තියෙන රාජකාරියලු. මට මේ පොලිස් පෙතුමා දෙන්න අසත් සාලි මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කතා කරන්නේ. ඔව් ගිහලා කියන්නේ නා. ඕකේ. අයිජීව ගන්න බෑ ලයින් එකේ ආ. මේ පැතරේ නෑ මම වාහනේම නවත්තලා
All vehicles that come this way are checked. They note down the number plates of the vehicles and they also note down the NIC numbers of the individuals. They have also asked, why did you come to see Azad Sali?
කුප්පාඩිකම් කරන්න තමයි පොලිසිය ඉන්නේ. ඈ මේ
They cannot arrest who has committed murders. The police cannot find out who destroyed Alutkama, Beruwala and Panadura. However, they try to intimidate people like us who say everyone needs to live in unity and who reject the country turning into a jihad nation.
මේ රට තුල ඔක්කොම සාමකාමීව ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා කියන අපිට තමයි මුන් කෙලින්න එන්නේ.
I called the IGP, his PA picked up the phone and said he would take the message. We called the media today to show this.
මේක පෙන්න ගන්න තමයි අපි මාධ්‍යයට දෙන්න කිව්වේ.
Azad Saleh also lodged a complaint with the Human Rights Commission in this regard.
The Mahanayaka Theros have called on President Mahinda Rajapaksa to cancel the night races that are scheduled to be held in Kandy on the 27th and 28th of this month.
The letter, which was addressed to the President, bore the signatures of the Mahanayaka of the Askiri chapter, Most Venerable Udugama Sri Buddha Rakita Thera, the Mahanayaka of the Amarapura Sangha Sabhava, Most Venerable Dyaudena Naniswara Thera, the Mahanayaka of the Ramanya sect, Most Venerable Napane Pemasira Thera, and the Anunayaka of the Malwatu chapter, Most Venerable Nyangoda Vijitasiri Thero. The Mahanayaka Theras note that the sacred city of Kandy is the resting place of the sacred relics of Lord Buddha, as well as a city which contains many historical places of worship. Conducting such an event in such a city, which has also been named a UNESCO heritage site, causes harm to the pride of the city.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa visited the sacred grounds of Katharagama today, where he engaged in religious observances.
Following religious observances held close to the Kirivihara Chaitya, the President visited the Katharagama Devale, where he participated in special religious observances. The President also declared open the first teachers' village in the Uva province in Kodayane, Siambalanu today.
Today marks the 90th birth anniversary of late President Ranasinghe Premadasa. Religious observances to mark the anniversary were held at Vikramasinghapura in Battaramulla today.
Religious observances were held at the premises of the statue of late President at the Chitta Vivekashrama in Vikramasinghapura, Battaramulla. The event was held under the auspices of the President of Premadasa Centre, Sirisena Kure.
ඉදම්මේ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ නිලධාරීන්ගෙන් හොඳටම වැඩගත්ත
Ranasinghe Premadasa is the president who got the best out of his officials. I heard here today that it is people who consume milk rice on the day that President Premadasa was killed that are in the country today. That may be true, but the same people are speaking of how much better off the country would be if Premadasa were alive today. Whenever we go out somewhere for a sermon, an alms giving or a conference, they tell us this. Even when a devotee comes here, they tell us the same thing.
සදහැවතෙක් આવුත් ඒ කාරණාව කියනවා.
මහජනතාව නැගී හිටියොත් දෙපයින් නැගී හිටීමට ශක්තිය ලබාගත්තොත්
We believe that if the people were given the strength to stand on their own 2 feet, then they would be committed to the future, to build the nation. He always tried to give the younger generation a new life. He wished to make the youth of this country second to no one in this world. A group with narrow objectives took away his life. We must see this as a great loss to the nation and the world at large.
ඒ රටට ලෝකයට වෙච්ච ඉමහත් පාඩුවක් හැටියටයි අපි දැකිය යුත්තේ.
Residents of the Vikramasinghapura Elders Home were hosted to a lunch today to mark the 90th birth anniversary of late President Ranasinghe Premadasa.
On to another headline-making story now. A suspect who was injured in police fire succumbed to his injuries this evening. The suspect had allegedly stabbed an individual in the Divalapiti area and attempted to flee the scene, at which time he was shot by the police. Police media spokesperson SSP Adithrona said that the suspect had also stabbed a police officer who attempted to arrest him. Meanwhile, the spokesperson said that the police officer and individual who was stabbed are receiving treatment in hospital. Police have commenced investigations into the incident.
Well, over the past several weeks, the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, or ISIL as they are known in their acronym, have made several gains in their push towards Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. This map here shows the activities of the group in Iraq and of course in neighboring Syria as well. What you can see here in yellow is the area where the group has an operational presence. Also in red you see the key towns and cities that the group has managed to capture and now has complete control of. This includes of course Qaim, which is a town on the border between Iraq and Syria. It is a major border crossing that of course has enabled ISIL to send supplies through from Syria and Iraq. At the same time they have captured Baiji, the oil refinery there, and the latest reports coming out of Iraq indicate that the ISIL insurgents, the militants, are on the verge of capturing the Haditha Dam, which is a key hydroelectric power station. If you look here closer towards Baghdad, you can see that there is a heightened level of activity among the ISIL militants. We've seen them converging on Baghdad from several fronts. They're not in Baghdad yet, but predictions are that the militants will reach Baghdad in the near future. Of course, the international desk will continue to follow all these developments and keep our viewers updated on the very latest. For now, this is Nadim Majid from the Newsfirst International Desk.
Now, what steps have the Sri Lankan authorities taken with regard to Sri Lankan nationals currently working in Iraq? Deputy Minister of External Affairs Newmal Pereira had this to say. We have stopped sending workers to Iraq. At the same time, we have an office in Iraq. We are informing our workers there via this channel to keep away from troubled areas. We have received the cooperation of the Iraqi government. The Sri Lankan embassy has been informed. There have been no reports of incidents involving our workers in Iraq.
Meanwhile, several Indian nationals who are working in Iraq touched down in India today. Many people working in Basra city of Iraq heaved a sigh of relief when they returned home safely in New Delhi.
Our company had made all the arrangements. The government therefore did not make much effort. The situation over there is worsening day by day. The problem is still there in Baghdad, but we were in Basra. We didn't face any problem, but we could have faced it as the situation is tense.
According to international media, a Sri Lankan national was among the 118 illegal residents arrested in Hyderabad, Pakistan, subsequent to a search operation launched by the Peshawar police. Sources said that the door-to-door search operation was launched yesterday following a tip-off about the presence of illegal immigrants.
Speaking to News First in this regard, the Sri Lankan High Commission in Pakistan, Chief Marshal Jayalat Virakodi, said that the High Commission is yet to receive a response from the relevant authorities verifying the nationality of the arrested individual. The High Commissioner added that the Commission has thus far made efforts to contact the Pakistani government officials to verify details pertaining to the individual's personal details. Commissioner Chief Marshal Jayalat assured that the High Commission will take swift measures to contact the External Affairs Ministry in Sri Lanka to decide on the future course of action if the arrested individual is confirmed a Sri Lankan national.
An individual running a private financial institution in Ambalantota has been arrested on charges of defrauding individuals to the tune of 150 million rupees. Police state that the suspect was arrested after more than 226 people had filed complaints against him in relation to the scam. The suspect was arrested around midnight last night. A luxury jeep and a van were taken into custody as well. Police added that the suspect, who had fled Ambalantota, was hiding in Colombo when he was apprehended. And up next is Action TV.
principal
They take me to the principal for even the most insignificant incident. Sometimes about 4 or 5 people will corner me and drop hints. I cannot go to school. When I do go, I am reminded of my sister.
Among the reasons given by this grade 9 student for not attending school for over 3 months is the memory of her elder sister. Given the consequences that are now being suffered, it would be apt for all of society to reminisce on the unfortunate fate that befell this girl's elder sister. This memory should be renewed in order to ensure that such events do not come to pass again. In keeping with this responsibility, it is necessary to inquire into the steps taken by education authorities in the aftermath of the suicide of this girl's elder sister, who was also a student of Sir John Kotalawala College in Kurunegala. About 2 months ago, the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission recommended that another individual be appointed to the position of principal at the school, and that teachers who protested on behalf of the principal, who is now free on bail after being charged with subjecting the girl who committed suicide to cruel treatment, should be transferred. These recommendations followed a complaint that was lodged by a teacher from the same school. She had lodged this complaint noting that the police and provincial education authorities had failed to properly investigate situations that had arisen after she and 2 other teachers testified before the National Child Protection Authority that the principal in question had mistreated this girl. The complaint was taken up before the Commission once again on Friday against a backdrop where none of the earlier recommendations made by the Commission had been implemented. On Friday, the administrative officer who represented the Kurunegala Education Director submitted an interesting investigation report to the Commission. According to this 2 A4-page report, all that the Zonal Education Office has done with regard to the burning of effigies of these 3 teachers at the school premises and other acts of malice is to record statements from 2 students. This shows that those who are responsible for education in the Northwestern Province have no want to prevent incidents such as this from occurring in schools in the province in the future. A poor quality which prevails in this country of creating strife and conflict at times when social lessons can be learnt was evident in the case of this suicide as well. A popular opinion that arose during this saga is that the social media website Facebook should be banned. While a loving society went to such lengths to safeguard children, today this girl has been deprived of an education because it is clear that while interesting ideas may be proposed for the betterment of children, the child does not always receive what is best for them from this society.
I still don't have a school. There are 2 girls' schools in Kurunegala. If they can enroll me at one of those, I would happily go there.
Secretary to the Ministry of Education, this is over to you.
Newsfirst is the most trusted news website in Sri Lanka, using a multi-platform responsive layout for a richer user experience. Our news reporting is verified, unbiased, balanced and fearless. We are Sri Lanka's most powerful social media network. Millions trust Newsfirst. That's why we are #1. Access our content on the web, Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. Newsfirst, your life, our news.
Welcome back to the news. On business news, the central bank has decided to issue Sri Lanka development bonds for subscription at a rate of US dollars 6-month LIBOR plus, a margin to be determined through competitive bidding.
Issuing a communique, the central bank notes that bidding, which commenced on the 16th of this month and concluded today, saw the participation of foreign and local commercial banks for subscription. It also added that the total bids received amounted to $239.5 million and was oversubscribed by 4.8 times. Considering the high demand at a highly competitive margin for Sri Lanka development bonds and providing an opportunity for investors to invest their funds for a longer period, the central bank has decided to accept the entirety of $239.5 million. As of today, the US dollar 6-month LIBOR rate was quoted at 0.3234%. Eligible investors may purchase SLDBs in the secondary market through designated agents appointed by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The settlement for the bidding is scheduled for the 30th of this month.
An 8-year-old girl died in a motor accident that occurred this afternoon in the Tittavala area in Kurunegala. Our correspondent in the area noted that the deceased has been identified as Poojani Vichikshana, a grade 3 student of President's Girls' School in Kurunegala. The accident took place at around 4 p.m. when the motorcycle on which the victim was travelling on was trapped between 2 lorries. Our correspondent added that the victim's mother had also sustained injuries in the accident.
Day 4 of the second test encounter between Sri Lanka and England is currently underway in Leeds. Batting first, Sri Lanka posted 257 runs, to which the hosts replied with a first innings score of 365. A short while ago, England won 12 for no loss.
As he was undone for 79 runs. Dinesh Chandimal's stay at the crease was limited to just 12 deliveries as he was undone by Liam Plunkett for 7. Dhammika Prasad was dismissed in the very next delivery for a duck. It was Angelo Matthews who spearheaded the Sri Lankan fight back as he steered Sri Lanka past the 400-run mark. Matthews recorded his 4th test century today.
Well, that's a single at this stage, and he has batted very well. Matthews is...
Spinner Rangana Herath provided skipper Matthews with some much-needed company at the crease. He scored 48 runs before being run out. Matthews went on to pass the 150-run mark and also bettered his highest personal test score.
Captain's knock, if ever the...
He was eventually undone by James Anderson for a valiant 160 runs. Sri Lanka were bowled out for 457, handing England a target of 350 runs for victory.
Miles an hour that last delivery, he finishes with
114-896-896.